Hey, I'm Nick from Kinetic, and thanks for checking out our new series from the floor. One of our goals at Kinetic is improving the level of education in the industry. So we wanted to put out this series to just highlight different brokers, give some quick hitting tips on like just best practices, common mistakes, and general brokering advice. Today I got Justin from RGL Logistics. Justin, thanks for being on, man. You want to do a quick intro?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Nick. My name is Justin Raduenz. I'm with RGL Logistics. I'm the operations manager for our brokerage division. I've been in the industry for just over 8 years. This is my sixth year with RGL, and I've been managing our RFP process, our spot pricing, technology, procurement, and some carrier sales and some customer sales. So I've been in a little bit of every seat in the industry. So it's nice to be on the show.
All right. Thanks again for being on. And I'm glad you mentioned pricing because that's what we're going to talk about today. And so pricing is an extremely complicated topic. So we're really just going to superficially hit on a few things that like I've seen come up a lot over my career in freight. And the first thing is, so pricing isn't exclusively dictated by origin and destination points. Lots of other stuff impacts pricing. What are a few things that jump out to you that people forget sometimes?
Yeah, as you know, there's a lot of variables, a lot of things that are going to be driving the change in rates here. But commodity is one that I'll start with. Is it a high value shipment where you're going to need additional coverage on, or is it something that's it's a messy product and you might need some trailer washes or something along those lines, some special requirements there? Or is the product easy on, easy off, it's just palletized, you're in, you're out, boom. And those are the optimal loads that everyone wants to have, but it's just not the way the market is. Some other things that I look at are pickup and delivery appointments. Not only what time of the day are they, but how are they spaced out based on the mileage of these shipments? Are they logistically appealing to drivers, and do they jive well with what their hours of service are? So those are a few of the things. On the larger scale, seasonality, but that, we can get into that topic in a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about on seasonality. And again, like this is kind of a rudimentary question because there's so much that goes into rates. Are there any that caught you off guard? For me, there were a few, but I remember one of my first years in freight, like flowers around Valentine's Day. Like I was trying to move a load out of Florida, and just like for whatever reason, it was surprisingly hard. And then someone tips me off, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up. There's a bunch of flowers coming out of there. I'm like, oh, well, who knew? So like for you, what are some things that have been unexpected or just caught you off guard?
Yeah, when I first started in the industry, the big one that caught me off guard was Christmas trees in the Northwest. Didn't expect it. Just not something that I thought was going to drive the market as much as it did, and learned from it. Otherwise, everything else has really been not so much a shock factor to me, but just something that I have to remember to look at. This is coming up, whether it be a seasonality of produce or if it's a holiday. There's a lot of different seasonalities that we just have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, another one for me, I'm going off script because I like these anecdotes, but is how like certain events will affect different commodity or not commodity equipment types in different sequences. Like hurricanes, for instance. I mean,
Yes.
you start out getting an influx of van freight because you need all the emergency supplies, and then like the flatbed freights come in later to help with the rebuilding process. And as I'm sitting there trying to fumble my way around like why vans are hot and then flatbeds are hot, someone finally kind of educates me on that particular tidbit. So like, yeah, there's so much more in there. We talked about this for a minute ago, seasonality, and I'd like to talk about it a little bit more. There are a lot of different strategies for coping with seasonality. For you, like how do you manage it when you're pricing freight?
Data is key. Whether you're using, I mean, most of us should be using a collaboration of our own data, our own historicals, as well as some outside rate indexes as well. So really staying on top of the data and figuring out ways to interpret it accurately so that you can create forecasts that are relative to the market. You want to get it as you want to be able to determine the predictive seasonality as close as possible. And there's a lot of really nice tools out there that will help with it, but they're not always going to be 100%. So optimizing the data side of things, and then also really taking a look at yourself as a company. What does your carrier network look like? Where are your strong points? How do those fit into seasonalities of those areas? Where can you expand? Where are the rooms for improvement? Where do you have a really deep routing guide? There's a lot of different takeaways that can all be valuable, and those are just a few of them right there.
Do you find that having the deep routing guide can help you like mitigate some of the effects of that seasonality?
Yeah, definitely. You try and contract carriers where you can, and even if it's just a handshake agreement, just really knowing that you may be paying a little bit more outside of the season, but then when the season kicks in and the rates spike, you're going to be doing really good during that season. So it's a lot of it is relationship driven. How much trust is there from both sides? So really, you got to treat your carriers with the utmost respect and drive relationships there. On the flip side, having great customer relationships is another key element as well. Being able to have some flexibility when you get to those out of control market swings due to produce or whatever the case may be. Really, relationships go both ways, and it's a great thing to have.
Yeah. How do you approach those conversations with carriers when you have a lane that you'd like to contract with them that you know is going to have a bunch of volatility over the course of the year?
Yeah, it's really about getting a fair market price, and how much is this really going to work for them? If they're going out of their way to help you, the rates aren't going to be as much in your favor. Your negotiation power will be down a little bit, but with that, well, now I lost track of where I was going.
That's fine. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how to approach those conversations with carriers.
Yes.
And like I think we kind of wrapped it up where it's about that relationship, and it's about making sure it fits into their business in order to get appropriate pricing on it.
Yeah, and showing them the good stuff, like where their benefits are, where our benefits are, really being transparent about about what is going to transpire on that lane, because they know there's going to be some volatility. We know that. It's just a matter of how can it work best for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next question we kind of have here, it veers off from this a little bit, but how do you develop a consistent pricing strategy at your company? And like we've been talking about pricing for a few minutes, and it's already a lot of information. How do you get everyone on the same page so you don't have Billy quoting $1,000, Bobby quoting $1,200, and like Jill quoting 15 out in the corner somewhere?
Yeah. So the first thing is when you're creating your strategy, you got to trust your data, trust your carrier team and the network that they've created. But you're going to be looking at your historicals, your predictive forecasting models that are out there, whether that's built internally or through some outsourced tools. Also looking at the rate indexes, and then any vendor tool that you may be able to get some pricing information from. There's a lot of technology companies out there that have a lot of very good data that they scrub. So you're getting as close to real-time data as possible. So you get that and build it into your pricing strategy. You really need to know your own network as well. Where can you be very aggressive with the rates and know you're still going to turn a profit based off of your own model? So those are some of the keys, and then rolling it out to the team and getting them to buy into it. Once you get through the testing phase of that and making sure there's no potholes in the road, really getting the team to buy into it so that they're not constantly second guessing and overthinking what the rate is that they're getting from the tool that they're using, whether it be internal or an out of network rating tool.
Yeah, I in my experience, that's key. hopefully you don't hear my 4-year-old screaming right now, but getting the people to stop second guessing the technology. It's there for a reason, and that reason is for you guys to actually use it. So
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought. Yep.
and one thing to add on to that, once they get the rate, being able to dissect the data and show them why that rate came out the way that it did. If you've got something where it's picking up super late at night and you've got to hold on to it for an extra day, that it's breaking out those charges of the layover, the appointment surcharge, things like that is really key as well. They're good. They're very good teaching moments for the folks out on the floor.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the explaining the why, because that's huge for seat level adoption, and like even for your customer relationships. I mean, when you give them a rate that seems to be above market, being able to explain to them why it's that way. Like, I really like that you brought that up. What are some common mistakes that you see reps making with pricing? Does anything jump out to you on that end?
The biggest thing that always pops up from the sales folks, from the account managers, is they don't have enough information to quote. Always ask questions, always gather the necessary information, because that's really going to be the key drive in the rate that you're getting back, because it's going to be mostly data driven. So if you don't fill in those data points, you're going to get an inaccurate rate, and then you have the possibility of losing out on either not winning the load or really getting it handed to you when you have to go cover it.
Yeah, I'll admit I've made that mistake before. I remember one of the first customers I ever got. They asked me for a rate. I don't know what it was, like Detroit to Columbus or whatever. And there I am, super excited I got this. And I'm asking my manager at the time, like, hey, what's my rate on this? He goes, what's the commodity? I'm like, I don't know. I just need a rate. Like, what do I need the commodity for? And he explains to me why I'm an idiot and that I need to know what the actual commodity is before just quoting random numbers. Anyway.
Yeah, because quoting a reefer load at 60 degrees is much different than an ice cream load at -20. There is quite a price swing there.
It is. And I think a lot of time people forget about that. Like, that's all the questions I have for today. I really appreciate you jumping on. I think this is a really interesting topic. I think pricing is fascinating. There's so much that goes into it. We're intentionally keeping these short and digestible for people, but there's always more to learn. So Justin, if someone wants to reach out to you, how do they do it?
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Raduenz. You can send me a message. Otherwise, my email is jraduenz@rgllogistics.com.
Perfect, man. Justin, thanks again for hopping on, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from you and the group at RGL.
Thanks for having me, Nick.